Hello, guys. Good day. This is Anne of Reinforcement Club, your fellow positive reinforcer. Today, we are going to talk about boundaries. Why boundaries are your best friend. Personal boundaries are the invisible limits we set to define how others treat us, interact with us, and behave around us. They act as a framework for our emotional, physical, and mental well being, ensuring that we feel safe, respected, and valued in every aspect of life. Just as fences protect our physical spaces, boundaries safeguard our inner world, our peace of mind, our time, energy, as well as our emotion. That's how important boundaries are. Clear and healthy boundaries enhances relationships, reduces stress, and empower us to live authentically. Just, happily being just ourselves and do whatever we want. Without boundaries, we risk overextending ourselves, feeling taken advantage of by others, or losing sight of our own needs. Whether in personal or professional settings, learning to set and maintain boundaries is essential for self respect and building meaningful connections. In this episode, we are going to explore the importance of personal boundaries, how they impact our lives, and practical steps to establish them. Setting boundaries isn't about keeping others out. Like, you're not one of us. You're not, you know, you're not involved. You're not in the group. It's about letting the right people, letting the right people in our lives while prioritizing our well-being at the same time. Now, what are personal boundaries? Personal boundaries are the limits and guidelines we set for ourselves and others to protect our emotional and physical, as well as mental, even social well being. They define what we consider acceptable and unacceptable behaviors in relationships and interactions. Boundaries help us maintain a sense of autonomy, safety, and control over our lives. Now, we have different types of boundaries. The first one is physical boundaries. It defines our personal space, touch, and physical privacy. So, like for example, you don't want to let your friend get into your house for the first time because you're not comfortable at the moment or you're not prepared. So you tell your friend that, look, I'm not ready to let you go into my house at the moment. Just maybe the second time around because I'm not ready yet. So that is a clear way or clear statement to your friend that you're not ready to let him get in yet, or could be for some other personal reasons. Now, another type of boundary is emotional boundaries. This protects our feelings and emotional energies, like when 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 you just had a breakup, and then one of your friend is telling you to talk about it, but you're not ready. Look, you just simply say to that friend of yours that, look, I'm not ready to talk about it at the moment. I'm still processing. So I'm just going to get back to you. I'm going to let you know by the time I'm ready because I'm still trying to process emotionally what's really happening, and you could have other plans, etc. But when you're not comfortable about letting your emotions, exposing your emotions after breakup, then you're not ready. You just have to say it. Now, another type of boundary is mental boundaries. So this is something to do with our beliefs, thoughts, and opinions that opinions that could be disagreeable to others. But it doesn't mean that when others disagree to our opinions, we hate them. We're not friends anymore. We're not relatives anymore. That's another story. So mental boundaries means you have your idea, you have your own thoughts, you have your own beliefs, and I do respect that. We can still get on. Although we are different, we think differently, but we still get on having the same vision, the same, could still get on working on the same projects. We could still be brothers and sisters even though we have different opinions, but we just have to respect others because they're different. As in return, you can get that the same respect too. Now, another type of boundary is material boundaries. Now, these are the set of rules for lending, boundarying. I mean, sorry about that. I didn't. Where did I get the word? These are a set of rules for lending, borrowing, and sharing possessions. The terms and conditions. That's when you buy a house, you get the terms and conditions from the bank for your mortgage. So those are the set of rules that you have to follow. It does exist institutionally. Even when you apply a job, you have terms and conditions too. Now, another type of boundary is time boundaries. This ensure your time is respected and used according to your priorities. So this is something to do with the way you negotiate your time. You know, the way when you're selling something that you're gonna ask the person, would you mind giving me 13 minutes? And you have to finish on or before 13 minutes. So another example of time boundaries, because I'm also particular with my time. You know, Personally, I don't want to be late. At the same time, I don't want to arrive at work or any appointment on time. I want to be ahead of time. So that is my personal boundaries with regards to time. I want to be ahead of time. I don't want to arrive on time. I want to be ahead. So that's how I treat, because my time boundaries, because I don't want to waste others' time, and I don't want to waste my time when I get into an agenda. I must have an agenda on hand before I join a meeting, before I say yes to any party. So I must have an agenda. Otherwise, I would be happy enough to say no. Another type of boundary is relationship boundaries. These are the defined acceptable behavior in friendship, family dynamics, and even romantic partnerships. That's, in such a way that you have to respect the differences of the people you hang out with. Even though you don't like some of their behaviors, but, there's nothing you can do about it. As you have, if anybody experienced that you have some relatives you dislike, even though you're hanging out with them, you can't say that I don't like you just right away, like straight on the face. I don't like you. I don't like the way you do. Look, they didn't do anything, but merely just looking at them, they've already crossed your boundaries. If there is someone you dislike, you really do dislike, it's way better to really set that boundaries to yourself, that just avoid them rather than start a conflict. So that's part of relationship boundaries that you have to build with yourself. If you can't change, it's true that you can't change other people, but you are in control of yourself. You can change yourself. So if there are some people that you don't like, it could be a family member or one of your friends, you can't change them though, but you are in control of yourself. So it's way better to limit your exposure to these people or just avoid them for your own peace of mind, if that makes you happy. So set that boundaries to yourself. Now, how do personal boundaries help a person? First of all, personal boundaries promote self-respect. Boundaries affirm your value, your worth. They communicate that you respect yourself. You love yourself enough to set a clear limits from people around. Look, I'm not you just clearly communicate to them, look, I'm not comfortable about what you say. Can you say it again? Can we talk about it? Can we solve the problem? Did I offend you? Because if something triggers you, you got to negotiate. The other party might have boundaries that you cross. It's not just your boundaries are being crossed. So you got to meet a common ground for that. Otherwise, boundaries lets you show your self-worth, which others are not aware if you don't respect your own boundaries. You have to clearly communicate it to others and practice them yourself. Work them out. Now, another benefit of having a boundary, a personal boundary, is it enhances relationships. Now, healthy boundaries create mutual respect, prevent resentment, and foster open communication in relationships. They ensure both parties feel heard and valued. Now, that's what I'm talking about, negotiation. Especially if you want to keep that relationship, that friendship, if you want to keep that romantic relationship, if you want your romantic relationship to last forever, then negotiate, communicate your boundaries clearly, and get to know the other person's boundary, and then respect each other as much as you respect yourself. Now, another good thing about having a personal boundaries, it actually improves emotional well-being. By protecting your emotional energy, boundaries reduce stress, anxiety, and feeling of being overwhelmed or taken advantage of. So when you know your limits, you don't you have a narrow, or you're gonna have a less possibility to overextend yourself towards others, like to the point that you're gonna get burnout, to the point that you're gonna get stressed out because you keep saying yes to almost everybody or everybody, and saying no because you have boundaries and you value your own boundaries, you value yourself, your emotional well-being, then you can adamantly say no. Sometimes you can't please everybody. But since that is true, it is what it is. Sometimes you got to choose yourself, because if you're not happy and you said yes to other people, then you're still gonna end up unhappy. Unlike if you happily choose yourself, then in the end you're gonna be happy. Now that's the difference. When you prioritize yourself first, when you're happy about what you're doing, when you're happy about your choice, people are happy, and you're all going to be happy. You're all win-win in the end. Unlike if you prioritize others, even though they're happy and you're not happy about your choice, then who's losing? You. Now, another benefit of having boundaries, it encourages independence and responsibility. Boundaries help you avoid overextending yourself and enable others to take responsibility for their own actions and decisions. So when you clearly communicate that this is your limits and others just decided to walk across it, then they know that they have crossed you. Then they know why you get angry, they know why you get triggered, because you clearly communicate to them your boundaries and they walk across it. Then another thing, boundaries also help a person prevents burnouts. As I've mentioned before, boundaries help you prioritize self-care and avoid being overburdened with other people's problems and demands. When you want to sleep at home, when you prefer to have a good night's sleep rather than going to a party, accept that invitation that your friend is giving you. Just simply say no. Then have a good night's sleep, drink some wine with yourself, just for that day, because you choose yourself. That's your choice. Rather than saying yes to your friend and then enjoy, have fun in the party, and then at the end of the day, you're gonna be left out with hangover, headache, and then you have to go to work the next day. So, having boundaries help you promote self-care. Now, another thing, boundaries help you build confidence and assertiveness. Setting boundaries teaches you to express your needs clearly and assertively, boosting your confidence. So when you know your limits, you know exactly your power. Then you can be humble when you know your power. Now, boundaries, should I say personal boundaries, also help you define identity and priorities. Boundaries clarify who you are, what you value, and what matters most to you. making it easier to focus on your personal goals. So let's just take this for example. You value your family time, you value self care, you value your time. Now, when when you clearly communicate that to your friends and to even to your workmates, when you say no to their invitation, they know exactly why. Then they don't make a fuss about it. They wouldn't insist because they know that you are the kind of person who values her family, who values making memories with the kids, loved ones, who prefers self care. Now, lastly, another good thing about having personal boundaries is that it reduces conflict and misunderstandings. Clear boundaries eliminate guesswork, making it easier for others to understand and respect your limits. Now, to be honest, there are times when people cross my boundaries. And most of those times I didn't clearly communicate my boundaries. And there are also some situations wherein I cross others' boundaries because, because of miscommunications and misunderstanding. And at the end of the day, the boundaries wasn't clear. So I could when I meet conflicts with my colleagues or friends, it could be my fault. And in some point, I know that it's my fault because I didn't know that I crossed their boundaries. That's why I triggered them, and that's a lesson for me. Look, after all, I happen to know that I've crossed the line, and I'm not gonna do it again. Now the boundaries are actually not barriers. Some people think that they're not in the group when you don't hang out with them anymore. But what you're doing really is you prioritize your well-being, your peace of mind. That's why you just want to get hang out with the right people. What you also need to define what is right people for you. There aren't about Boundaries aren't about shutting people out, but creating a healthy space for mutual respect. You know, I do understand that I can't please everybody. When there are people who doesn't want to hang out with me before I get hurt, but this time around I'm getting mature now. So if they don't want to hang out with me, then there could be some other reasons, some reasons behind that. But look, I respect that. If they reject me, I understand it now because I'm also rejecting people. So as long as we get on, we can still work together, we can still talk a little bit, then that will be enough. And more than that, if the other parties couldn't give that to me, it's totally fine. I do believe in boundaries and I value my own boundaries too. So I would understand if people wouldn't want to hang out with me. And it's also important to communicate, our personal boundaries clearly. So express your boundaries calmly and clearly without feeling guilt. Otherwise, if you feel guilty about expressing your feelings, people wouldn't take you seriously. So express your limits seriously, and you yourself has to follow your own limits so others would recognize them, even without telling them that these are my limits. But if you follow them yourself, then they're gonna know. And it's also important to be consistent, to our own boundaries, to reinforce their importance so that people would also respect them. So what I'm trying to say is, if you value a thing so much, then you have to show it to yourself first. Then others will follow. And in the most part, since you have your own boundaries, if others have their own too, which should be opposite from yours, even though you dislike them, look, respect. Respect is also a currency, important currency this time. Respect others' boundaries. Healthy relationships require mutual respect and understanding. People are different. They could be saying things that you don't like, but they are not, simply because they are not you and they are not like you. Just try to look at the other side of it, wherein you can see how could appreciate how other people think, and you could even learn from them. You could even learn from your triggers. Be aware about the qualities that you dislike and you like to a person by just simply knowing your own boundaries. Now, by maintaining a personal boundaries, you empower yourself to live authentically, autonomous, prioritize your well-being, and build healthier and more fulfilling relationships with yourself and to others. Now, I hope you learned something from the episode today. If you like this content, you can follow me in YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcast, even an Amazon Podcast. You can share this to your family and friends. Reinforce Me Club. By the way, this is Anne, your fellow positive reinforcer. I do appreciate your time and have a lovely day ahead. Thanks once again.